General, I've been waiting to speak with you as a consequence of what happened here. What did you see here?
Well, profoundly, we see that the Hamas chain of command has disintegrated. That Sinwar had, at the end of his days, had zero ability to see the battlefield, to coordinate events, to govern in any way the civilian population, a couple of million Palestinians now living in a devastated environment. So I think what we've got now is an organization, maybe 10, 15,000 fighters remaining, autonomous, conducting guerrilla operations, representing much less of a threat to Israel, maybe 20% of what they were prior to 7 October. And the Israelis, facing a seven-front war, as they say, appear to be dominating and reestablishing deterrence. The problem is they need to break out of this. The Israelis cannot govern Gaza. There has to be some pan-Arab solution, not the U.S. We should absolutely not take part in a peacekeeping operation in Gaza, the West Bank, the Golan Heights. But I think Netanyahu's got an opportunity for perhaps a unilateral ceasefire, maybe to try and get the hostages back. But otherwise, the war grinds on.
You know, General, I just spoke to an IDF spokesperson earlier on my earlier program here on MSNBC today, and I asked them, I said, listen, you've taken out number one. You've pretty much decimated the entire Hamas infrastructure. You also did that with Hezbollah, but that's another issue. But focusing on Hamas, that's devastated. You guys have won the war. Why not say we won the war? Done. And he said for 101 reasons. And that's the 101 hostages that are still being kept in Hamas, either hands or in some allied groups' hands. How does this war end, General?
Well, I don't think it's going to end. I think we're in a terrible dilemma in which violence will continue. These voices of Hamas that are in the Gulf states or in Iran are completely disconnected from the remnants of Hamas battalions fighting in the Gaza Strip. They've still got probably a lot of ammunition left. They're almost out of missiles to attack Israel with. They have no chain of command. There's no reason for them to stop fighting. There's still access to food and cover. I think it's a very discouraging situation. It's possible the Israelis can make a unilateral move which would allow them better opportunity to offer rewards, cash, the ability to leave the Gaza Strip and get some or all of their hostages back, the ones who remain alive, which is a very dubious situation. But look, at the end of the day, the Israelis have to talk about the day after the end of the war. And a unilateral ceasefire that also involves releasing thousands of Hamas fighters and withdrawing from the Gaza Strip is not going to happen. And fortunately, President Biden and Vice President Harris have said the same thing. They cannot re-engage with Hamas at the end of this conflict. So what's the solution? There's none on the table. The Arab states are not stepping up to it. I noticed Secretary Lloyd Austin and NATO talked about NATO's potential participation. There isn't a NATO nation that would touch us with an 11-foot pole. So it's sort of a grim situation without an obvious answer.
And General, finally, you know, we talked about Hezbollah, also its leadership being decimated. We're talking about possibly hundreds or thousands of the top, middle, and even low-level organization has been wiped out in the last couple of weeks alone. So where does Iran now stand? Hezbollah essentially wiped out leadership. Hamas essentially wiped out. The Houthis are, you know, the U.S. is actually fighting, you know, hitting them as well. What does Iran have left, and what happens when an Iran finds itself essentially cornered and insignificant?
Well, Jose, I think you make an important point. We're actually, the turning point isn't Sinwar in Gaza, dying without, with two gunmen fleeing from them. The turning point may be Iran trying to rethink what they're going to do. They're scrambling to get a nuclear weapon. I think they're going to be a nuclear state guaranteed within a year. But at the same time, they've seen their surrogates being devastated. They understand that the IDF, the Israeli Air Force, could go after their economic oil industry and devastate it. They could take down the nuclear abilities if they had a year or so to work on it. There aren't good options for Iran, but they're still hanging 20, 30 people a month internally to maintain control. So it's possible, one could assume, that Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf Coast states, Jordan, would start talking to the Shiite Muslim Iranian leadership and try and say, look, we need to stabilize the region. The advantage is in the favor of the Israelis. We got to come up with a new strategy. Let's hope that's the case. Secretary Blinken has been relentless in seeking peace. Maybe the Arabs will now step forward and try and argue with the Iranians. Let's stop this war.
Yeah, and what a tragedy has befallen Iran, the Persian people, just because of this regime that has been in power since 1979, and as you point out, continues to shed the blood of its own people in its attempts to stay there. What a tragedy. General Barry McCaffrey, it's always a pleasure to see you. I thank you for your time.